so the Supreme Court struck the final nail in the coffin. That is, student loan cancellation is not happening. That means that $1.75 trillion of student loans is gonna have to be repaid. Now, the national average balance of the federal student loan holder is around $35,210, so that's not chump change. And for those of us in that situation, I asked ChatGPT, what is the quickest way to pay off your student loans? So I feel for student loan holders because I was in the exact same situation. Back when I just finished school, I had about $40,000 in student loans, and the way I paid that off was that I got a $50,000 job as a software engineer. But what I did was I did live at home, I did not eat out, and my parents was gracious enough to let me stay at home and eat their food. I did not go and party every single weekend, but I did party every now and then, and I only kept it at $10 a night. How did I do that? I'm gonna reveal that later on in this video. By the way, $50,000 is not $50,000 when you're living in Vancouver, Canada. After taxes and everything, it really comes down to about $37,000. So ChatGPT really gave us 8 tips to expedite the process of repaying our student loans, and here they are. Number 1 is create a budget. Number 2 is make larger payments. Number 3 is prioritize higher interest loans. 4, consider refinancing or consolidation. 5, seek additional income sources. 6, live frugally. 7, apply Windfalls to your loans. And 8 is PSLF and other assistance programs. Now I'm gonna help you out here and knock out 3 of those that you basically can't consider right now. The number 1 is refinancing and consolidation, and that's basically because of the current interest rates. Current interest rates are really high, so basically the rates that you have right now is likely the best rates that you can get right now. Number 2, PSLF and other assistance programs. Now, I started off this channel as a crypto channel. That means that I don't trust the government for anything. So any support programs that they put out, that's just a distraction. Don't trust in it. It's not really gonna work for you. And when we're talking about that, guys, we didn't even start talking about Social Security yet. Now, what is a bigger scam here? Number 3 is prioritizing high interest loans. I can't agree with ChatGPT on that because I like Dave Ramsey's debt snowball method. And that method is that basically you're gonna list out all your debts and pay off the smallest debt first because you want to create momentum, and that's the best way to generate momentum. Guys, the quickest way to pay off your student loan is to do it yourself. You can't count on anybody, especially the government. I read this NPR article recently that said that before the student loan cancellation idea, there was no trust. And after that idea, there is still no trust. But what people are doing is that they are banking now on the PSLF, you know, the Public Service Loan Forgiveness and other assistance programs. These are government programs, guys. They just serve as a distraction. And people, they said that they don't trust all these programs, yet they're trusting in these programs now and leaning on that. It's completely bonkers. You trusted the government the first time by taking a loan, which you shouldn't have done. And now you're trusting the government again to forgive your loan? It completely makes no sense. They're not gonna do that because you're just dollar signs and votes to them. So now that we've got that out of the way, what can we do? Well, the number 1 thing that ChatGPT recommended was to create a budget. Now, I don't really agree with that because until you change your lifestyle, your budget is just gonna get blown. And one of the big contributors to that is probably going to be restaurants and alcohol. Now, before I got more committed to God and the church, I used to go to a lot of dance events because that was my hobbies, right? And when you go to events, you're usually out of town. That means that you have to spend on food, you have to spend on the event, and dancers also drink a lot. So before COVID, I was spending around $200 per weekend, which is like 3 days, 2 nights, right? But after COVID, I found that people were spending around $400 to $500 per weekend. That's a lot of money. And after I became more committed to God, committed to Jesus, committed to church, I attended a lot more small groups. And the last 4 small groups that I attended, basically we do a potluck style dinner. You hang out with your friends, talk about the word, and I spent around $30 doing that. So what I'm trying to get at is that your budget is not gonna help. It's going to get blown depending on your lifestyle. So before you create a budget, you have to ask yourself, all right, what kind of lifestyle do I wanna live? So number 2 recommendation from ChatGPT is live frugally. So there's gonna be a local dance competition that's coming out. Registration and competitions are gonna cost like $200, and just hanging out with friends that you haven't seen for a long time at restaurants, that's gonna cost, I'm gonna ballpark like $100. That's not gonna be including flights or hotel costs, which you usually have to pay when you go out of town for these events. So I'm thinking it's gonna be around $300, $400 for a local dance weekend. So I had to really fight about that. Do I really want to go spend and blow $300 to $400? And the answer to that was no. I looked at my credit cards and I was just so happy to see that every single line item was either groceries or gas, basically necessities. And I really think that that's what you want to aim for. And that's exactly the life I lived back when I was living with my parents. When I just graduated and was trying to pay off my student debt, they were saying, hey, you know, you can just live with us for free and eat our food for free while you're paying off the student debt. And I jumped at that. So like I said earlier, how did I keep a social life? Well, dance events are one thing, but there are also local events, local dances that I could go to that cost around $10 to $15 per dance. So basically, instead of going to the club where you're definitely going to be spending money on something like alcohol, which is, it doesn't make any sense to spend on, you could just go learn and pick up a new skill and maybe go to a local dance if you are into that, and that's going to cost you $10. So find activities like that that's just going to be more affordable so that you can actually have a social life and at the same time you're saving money to pay off your debt. And I just want to say one last thing about living with your parents. For those who hate living with their parents and have a huge student debt, unless your parents are going to kill you or they're not willing, then just suck it up. You know, just do it for 1 or 2 years, get your debt paid off so that you don't have student debt looming over your head for the next 30 years. So number 3, make larger payments. Now that you have created a budget and now that you're living more frugally, you should have some extra money saved up. What you're gonna do with that extra money is throw it at the debt. What's gonna happen is you're gonna reduce more of your principal and you're also gonna reduce the interest that you're gonna pay because you're throwing more money at the principal rather than interest, right? So now you should be paying more of the principal off, which reduces your loan. Number 4 is apply windfalls to your loans. What do I mean by windfalls? I mean that whenever you get a big tax refund or whenever you get a big bonus, what you're gonna do is you're not gonna blow that on bad Wednesday. What you're gonna do is you're gonna throw that at the debt to reduce it even more. And did I just make a term up, bad bitch Wednesdays? That's awesome. Number 5, what you're gonna do is seek additional income. Now this is gonna be very, very hard if you're doing some sort of service like you're a teacher or you're a nurse, because after school or after your shift, you're gonna be tired as crazy or you've got homework to do. So seeking additional income sources is gonna be hard, but some ideas would include something like side hustles or freelance gigs that will earn you some extra money. You can even do those on the weekends, right? So if you are interested in that, I'm not gonna go into that here because that's a big topic in itself, but I made a drop shipping playlist here that you could probably check out because that's exactly what I'm doing to earn extra side income. So guys, just to sound like a broken record before the storm hits, you can't count on the PSLF or the IDR, the income driven repayment program. The government is not there to help you. They're not there to save you. They just want you to keep paying interest so they can service this gigantic debt that they have. But to really drive the point home, the amount of loans that are paid off, total loans, the statistics on that is 0.58% of the total loans are paid off due to the thanks of these programs. Now let me ask you this, if you had to do a life-saving surgery and there's only a 0.58% chance of succeeding, would you do it? Exactly. So why on earth are you counting on these service forgiveness programs?